Hi, everyone, and welcome to State of State, a Penn State football show presented by FanDuel. Play your game. I'm Tom Hannafin. Today, I'm joined by Sup Caroline from X. You probably know her from _Sup Caroline. Caroline, you and I both live here in the same city of Nashville, so it's great to connect with you this way. I have been dying to talk to you about the culture shift that I've seen. I think a lot of people are seeing within Penn State football. And you actually addressed this very recently on your social media, on your TikTok especially, which I don't have, but I know a lot of other people do have. Love your stuff on X. So thank you for coming on. For those that aren't familiar with you, can you walk us through your journey to Penn State and what your experience has been like as a Penn State football fan?
Yeah, so my journey is kind of an interesting one, a little unconventional. I'm from York, Pennsylvania originally, so parents went to Penn State, sister, brother, everybody went there. I ended up taking a little bit of a longer route up to State College. I actually started undergrad at South Carolina. I was a swimmer there for a couple of years. So I graduated from South Carolina with a degree in accounting and then went up to Penn State to get my master's in accounting. So, always been like a light fan, like nothing super crazy, but always loved football. Really didn't get into college football as much until I got a little older and then got to college. So then my Penn State fandom was really heightened, of course, when I went to school there. And so I was only there for 1 year for school, but it was 2016. So if there was any year to be there, it was that one. And I've been hooked ever since.
That was a good year to get hooked.
Yeah, it was a fun one. I had a good time.
Like I said, I found your stuff on X to be hilarious and entertaining, and I agree with most of your takes very often. And it's funny, you were talking about on your TikTok recently the culture shift that you've noticed within Penn State football. And we were talking about this before we started recording, but Penn State versus Michigan State, the outdoor ice hockey game at Beaver Stadium went down this past weekend. It was an absolute spectacle. It sucks Penn State lost, but it was really incredible and something I think fans have been clamoring for. In the process of that game, Matt Campbell was in attendance, Micah Parsons was in attendance, and also some members of the staff, the Penn State football staff, were there as fans, so much so that I made it the thumbnail for this episode of, I believe it was Taylor Mauser, the offensive coordinator, Ryan Clanton, the offensive line coach, just crushing beers in the stands. And there was a very polarizing reaction to this, in that I think there are some older fans who didn't care for it, and I think there's some younger fans that thought it was awesome. And I kind of look at this in a few ways, like, Penn State is a great institution. It's a great community, all that sort of stuff, very traditional values, very blue collar mentality. But for anybody that went there, at least in the last 20 years, it's a party school. So to see this type of vibe come from the staff, you never would have seen this under James Franklin. What's your takeaway from what we're experiencing right now?
Oh, I loved it. I think it's great. Yeah. So like you said, I made a little video kind of diving into that clip and just some other things I've noticed over the past, whatever it's been, 2 months, I guess, since Matt Campbell got hired. And the first thing you notice is that it feels like there's been an injection of youth within the staff, which, checks out with some of the stuff I guess they're getting engaged in. Like, they're fun, they're going to the games, they're, getting involved with the crowd. So I like that. I think it's good that we maybe have a little bit more mix of older and younger staff members now. And I think it's something that not only the fans think is fun, but the players probably relate to a lot more. I also mentioned how, we kind of saw the lack of fun and just being so uptight it play out last season a little bit, especially because we saw what happened once Terry Smith took over. A lot of talk about not having fun. James Franklin was maybe over practicing them to death before the games, and that made them so uptight and worn out by the time they got to Saturday that they just, couldn't perform the way they were supposed to. So I think they just felt like they were having a lot more fun, just in general, and that led to better performance on the field. So I think if that's an environment that the coaches are kind of setting, obviously everybody's working hard, and if we're losing, then people are maybe going to be raising some eyebrows at the beer chugging in the stands. But I think, for now, as long as, it leads to winning more games and better results on the field, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think at the end of the day, sports are supposed to be fun. Even though we all really want to win and take it very seriously, like, don't get that wrong at all, but it's supposed to be fun. And I think that a lot of the coaches would probably agree that they get paid a lot of money to coach a kids game. Like, they should be having fun out there. Like, yeah, we want the results on the field, but it's fun to see the coaches' personalities, and Matt Campbell's allowing them to just be out there and be themselves.
To your point, right now in the winter, totally cool. It's cold as hell out. You might enjoy yourself. In the fall, different circumstance. So we'll keep an eye on that situation. One thing that I've thought about, because so many people have been like, well, Penn State feels like Iowa State East, and it's the Penn State Cyclones because you have all these guys coming over in the transfer portal, and the bulk of the coaching staff followed Matt Campbell from Iowa State and even Toledo before that. So part of me saw that clip of those guys chugging beers, and I was like, how much of it do you think it's a bunch of guys that have been stuck in Ames, Iowa? Not to say that it's a horrible town, but it's a really small town.
Right.
A whole lot to do. Not to say that State College is some enormous hub and there's all this stuff to do, but you go from a smaller program to, for what has to be for many of these coaches and players, a dream opportunity with a blue blood program. And they're kind of like, dude, like, we started from the bottom, now we're here, we made it, that sort of thing. Like, I get that feeling personally. What do you think?
Totally. I've had the exact same thought. Like, a lot of these guys, players, coaches, everybody included, probably living their best life right now. Like, we stuck with this guy. Some of them have been with Matt Campbell since Toledo and then followed him to Iowa State. And now they're at Penn State. Like, they probably, maybe dreamed of this, but, that's what you work for. But the fact that it actually came true, because I, stuck with this guy and I believe in his philosophy and how he does things. And it all paid off. And, we've got several months until we actually get to the season. But for now, like, they're just probably, some of them still in disbelief, all these players that transferred Iowa State, Matt Campbell turned it into a pretty decent program. But the fact that their coach got this new fancy job at, a Big Ten school, and they get to head over there, Penn State of all places, like, heck, everyone's probably so excited they can't believe it. So I completely agree. It's part of it's probably a reaction to that as well. And I don't blame them. You
mentioned your introduction to being a Penn State football fan, in earnest was 2016. Obviously, the year that Penn State won the Big Ten championship, Saquon Barkley, Trace McSorley, Mike Gesicki, like the list goes on and on. It was just an incredible year, an incredible team. From that point to now, can you describe the evolution that you saw of the feelings surrounding James Franklin and his staff that you experienced?
Right. Yeah. I mean, at first, everybody's pretty bought in, right? He turned around the program pretty fast. Obviously, Bill O'Brien helped with that as well. But, to get the whole way to a Big Ten championship win in just a couple years, kind of thought we were going on this trajectory. Like, we saw what he did at Vanderbilt. Like, imagine what he's going to keep doing at Penn State. Like, this is just the beginning. Had a couple of those good years, 2017, 2018, still really high up in the rankings, winning a lot of games. And then things sort of like tempered a little bit. And I was always a pretty big James Franklin supporter for a very long time, up until pretty close to the end here. I was admittedly one of those people who was like, well, who else better are we going to get? Like, we think we have this great culture and he's great at recruiting and it's a family and this and that. And then the wheels start to fall off. You start to hear some things like maybe the culture wasn't what we thought it was. And with the introduction of NIL, there's a lot of things going on that maybe he wasn't so great at managing and kind of ruined the culture a little bit. So it's like, well, okay, there's probably got to be better than this, right? Like, I think we can respect what he's done, but at the same time say it's time for something different. So yeah, I was with him kind of till the end there, and maybe slightly brainwashed. I don't know. A lot of people argue with me on that for a couple of years. And then after Oregon, I was just kind of like, okay, like, we're never going to win the big game. We're just not going to. And people were like, well, we could still have a path to the playoffs. I didn't care. It didn't matter if we went to the playoffs. It was the fact that we could not win a big game, and we proved it again. Like, that just felt like the game where we had to do it, get the monkey off of our backs, and we didn't. So I was like, okay, like, I think I'm done.
I've followed Penn State football since I was a kid, so this is going all the way back to the 90s, so my perspective is a little bit different than yours. But
sure.
I had a very close friend of mine who's also a Penn State grad make the point to me recently after James Franklin was fired, Matt Campbell was hired, and his point was that James Franklin was never hired to win a national championship. He was hired to right the ship and stabilize the program, repair the
Mhm.
image, obviously the damage that had been done during the Sandusky scandal. So I take that and I try to put that in perspective, because somewhere along the line, Penn State and the fans, I think, started to feel more confident about being Penn State fans and the football program itself because of that 2016
Right.
season.
That's
What
true.
James
That's true.
Franklin looked like he was building. But then it got to a point where I think the fans were like, hey, we were national title contenders and winners at one point. Maybe
Mhm.
we can get back to that. Can we get back to that? And to me, it just felt like Franklin, a staff, and a roster that were squeezing and pressing so much. And I think, like anything in life, when you press way too hard on something, it's just ultimately probably not going to work out the way that you want. Is that
Yeah.
what you saw?
Yeah, again, it kind of, maybe I didn't see it like at first, but then after Terry took over and everything changed, I think it kind of woke me up to see that a little bit. And I mentioned in the video I made the other day, so I was a swimmer at South Carolina, and I often found that when I was taking things like entirely too seriously, stressing myself out, like freaking out over everything and having absolutely no fun, is when I did the worst. Like I was so mentally unwell that it completely affected my performance. And especially something like swimming, like it's just you. But so sometimes maybe on a team there can be some things, this person covers up that and that area covers up that, but you got to imagine it got pretty dark in there if the whole team was so out of sorts. And you have to imagine that probably comes from the top, right? Like we heard Landon's made comments. He obviously wasn't there this past year, but he was there a few years ago. And he was like, Franklin just kind of crushed us and like stressed out about so much and micromanaged it. And we were exhausted by the time we got to the game. And it's not even like we drank our own Kool-Aid, I don't think, because I don't think we were so confident. I think the pressure just like made everyone go nuts.
State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out their Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Also, official State of State merchandise is available now. Support the show and grab State of State t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today.
It was a lot of external pressure, obviously, but at the same time, Franklin going out publicly on 2 different occasions in the summer of 2025 saying it's the best staff I ever had, best roster I've ever had.
Alignment.
Right, alignment out there. Oh my God, how many times we hear about the freaking alignment?
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question to you in terms of the culture shift that I think we're experiencing, and time will tell, is regardless of who's at the helm of the football program, how would you describe the Penn State football culture that you've gotten to experience?
I think the big thing for the longest time was like, this is a family, remember, it starts with I love you, it ends with I love you. I'm not going to lie. I'm not upset that I don't have to hear that again. Although I did buy into it for several years.
That and the want to know stuff. I'm okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and Penn State, like we were saying earlier, like it is a storied program, it is, we hold ourselves in like high regard, which is why a lot of some of the older folks are getting angry when they see the clips of the coaches, chugging beers. But like, I don't, we need to toe the line of having like an elitist attitude about it and, just actually trying to be fun, especially when we can't back it up, right? Like we haven't really won much in the last several years. But yeah, it's, I guess the word I always would think of, under Franklin's tenure, at least, was like a family atmosphere. Like everybody loves each other. It's more than just football. And you kind of like that as a fan too, right? Like obviously the transfer portal is huge now and we benefit from that. And sometimes, it's a disadvantage, but, you kind of like feeling like the players and like when they graduate, like you're proud of them because like they've been here for several years and them. So I think under Franklin, one thing we did do really well in the NIL era and portal era was keeping retaining our players, the ones that we felt like we really needed. We kind of kept that group together. So I enjoyed that part of the culture. but there were perhaps some other things going on behind the scenes that made things a little messier than we thought they were.
Looking ahead to 2026, obviously there's just so much that still has to happen. I know a lot of people saw the schedule come out and immediately there were people who were like, "Yeah, we'll be 6-6 again, or we'll be 8-4 or 9-3." And some people were like 10-2 and 11-1, and we're going to make
Right.
the playoff. And I am not about to give a win-loss prediction for 2026 because we have no idea what this team is going to look like.
Right.
I'm not asking you for a win-loss, but like, as a fan, what do you expect out of 2026?
So I'm like highly delusional. So
We all are, yeah.
I admittedly looked at the schedule and was like, 10-2 floor. I think a lot of people immediately are pointing to back-to-back games. I think weeks 5 and 6, Michigan at Michigan and then home against USC. And are like, okay, that'll be our 2 toughest tests. And like, yeah, I think in a normal year when we know exactly what we're probably going to get, I think that's a perfectly fine thing to say. But you're right. Like the more I kind of, I've been watching some of Landon's videos and like him, breaking down all these new players, and because I don't know who a lot of these guys are. Like I'm not familiar with, Iowa State. So I'm kind of just learning about them as we go. And so yeah, I'm trying to temper myself a little bit. But I'm expecting like some form of a positive result. I haven't yet decided what the positive result looks like. But I'm expecting to like be in a good mood when I'm watching the games, like not having the same old frustrations. Like a success for me would be having an offense that's fun to watch, because we haven't really had that. Like we've had a couple fun players, but we haven't had like a fun offense. So I think that would be a success for me, honestly. If I just didn't watch every game and say, this is the same old Penn State with a new staff. But haven't quite decided if that's like a record or what it is.
And to that point, like your introduction was 2016, literally maybe the most fun offense Penn State has ever fielded, arguably. So that's got to be tough for you to grapple with emotionally. And that's the thing, like going into the season, even looking at the roster on paper, my expectation is that it is going to feel kind of the way it's felt for a handful of years, I believe, in that you're going to have a run-first offense. You've got depth at tailback. You have some pieces that have to be figured out along the offensive line. Wide receiver, at least on paper, I know a lot of people are excited about Kobe Howard, but I don't know who the ace is, if it's a Skillson or...
I still don't know if we have one.
Yeah, so like it feels like kind of the same old problem maybe at wide receiver.
Perhaps.
So I feel like at least for another year, it's going to feel like it's felt for the last few years. But I think, it is that I think everybody expected Drew Howard to come in and walk on water, and there was the fatigue with Sean Clifford, and everybody's like, man, he's going to look like, Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, and we're going to sling the ball all over the yard, and that never happened. And Rocco Becht doesn't give you that same hype, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like he's a very good, solid quarterback, but I'm not expecting him to put up video game numbers. Do you have any sort of expectations at all from Becht or some of these Iowa State players?
I've seen a lot of people comparing Becht to Trace McSorley, which, that's fine with me if that's what he's going to look like. I mean, he's won the most games at quarterback in college football. I guess like coming into this year, he'll be the winningest quarterback. So that's, it's not, something to not hang your hat on there. I guess he was injured a little bit last year, like his shoulder. So that kind of set him back a little bit. Maybe didn't have his best year, a lot of turnovers. But from what I've watched of him, he seems like an exciting player. Like he's solid. I've watched some of the two of the receivers that we brought in, Chase Sowell and Brett Eskelson, I think is how you say his name. They look like they can do a couple of different things. That running back, Carson Hansen, he looks like he can kind of shake some guys off, run some people over. So they look like they're exciting players to watch. I mean, again, against Big 12 competition, sure. That's everybody's thing is, well, how are they going to look in the Big 10? I don't know. And, I guess that's hard to gauge until we actually see it. But, I think we brought in some exciting pieces on offense that could, freshen things up a little bit because, you're right. Aller had the frame, the hype, the ratings, the coming out of high school and the everything. But that doesn't always pan out. Like sometimes the scrappier guy, I mean, Beck's got NFL bloodline and, his dad played. So it's just something a little different to mix it up, and I don't know, it might provide some excitement if he's given the Trace vibes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what that could look like in 2026. The defense Dan Lynn as the defensive coordinator, just like to your point about family, a former, he is a letterman. So him coming back, that was something Penn State was trying to get last year before Jim Knowles, who was ultimately hired as a defensive coordinator. So I think the jury's going to be out on what the defense looks like for a little bit, but kind of to your projection about the record is that like Penn State should get out of September of 26 undefeated. And then it's okay. Yeah. Those back-to-back games with SC at home and then at Michigan. And I'm not looking past a road game at Washington and a home game against Minnesota. Like I don't think that's reasonable to just be like, oh yeah, those are definitely win. Like I'm not saying you're an idiot.
Like
maybe to be losses.
Right. Maybe 2 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, absolutely. But now, it's literally an entirely new team. So we actually have no idea.
Every team's an entirely new team. It's wild. Before I let you go, the Super Bowl, the big game, is coming up this Sunday. The Patriots are underdogs to the Seahawks by 4.5, according to FanDuel. I don't know if you even follow the National Football League, but do you have a pick for the Super Bowl this Sunday?
I don't follow it as closely as I used to. I'm also a really bad gambler, but I made picks for Championship Sunday. I didn't put money on them, but I was like, here are my picks, fade them if you must. And they both actually hit. I got both of them. So maybe I'm on a bit of a lucky streak here. But I feel like the Seahawks have been just really dominant from what I've seen. Would you say 4.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I would take Seahawks 4.5. I mean, the Patriots, great story. Sam Darnold, I love that he's been able to do what he's been and, bouncing around team to team to team, and everybody, overcoming the mono story. It's been a long way. So I think I'm going to ride with the Seahawks.
Okay. All right. I'm curious to see how that goes. Obviously, we love Deion Butler here on State of State, former Seattle Seahawk and Penn State Lion. Caroline, thank you so much for joining me. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on X at _SupCaroline. Also on Instagram, same handle. That's not really like super Penn State. That's more just like, random life things. And then I have been trying to do the TikTok thing, like you said. So that one, I accidentally made a TikTok with my normal username years ago, connected to some other email, and I can't figure out how to get into it. So that one is _SupCaroline.psu. But I think if you just look up like SupCaroline, it should pop up.
Cool.
So yeah, those are, I guess those are the three main places. Oh, I also started trying to just post some of my stuff on YouTube too. Same stuff as I'm posting on TikTok, _SupCaroline on that. So wherever you are, would appreciate the follow.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The dreariness of Nashville right now and the dreariness of state off season. It's a breeze, right? It's great.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you all for joining us here on State of State, a Penn State football show presented by FanDuel.
Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel for just 99 cents a month. You can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. State of State is presented by FanDuel.